So anyway, the course I'm going to teach is called Financial Theory of the Standard Theory. So these are things that I'm guessing you'll have, at least some of them, trouble figuring out how to answer now, but by the end of the course, they should be totally obvious to you. So suppose you win the lottery, $40 million, or it's $100 million, the lottery. Now they always give you the choice. Do you want to take $5 million a year over 20 years, or just get $40 million right now? Which would you do, and how do you think about what to do? Okay, that one. Okay, so now you get tenure at Yale at the age of 50, say. You're making $150,000 a year, and you think, you know, professors, it's going to go up with the rate of inflation, and that's about it, for the next 20 years till you retire, and then, so that's 20 years of that, and then you're going to live another 20 years when you're going to be making nothing. Okay, so how much of the $150,000 is, and let's say inflation is 3%, and what you'd like to do is consume inflation corrected the same amount every year, after you retire and before you retire. So how much of the $150,000 should you spend this year, and how much should you save? Okay, that's another, you'll learn very quickly how to do a problem like that. Okay, now President Levin wrote a few months ago, the end of last year, if you remember, he said that, well, the crisis was bad, you know, Yale was going to weather it, but Yale had lost 25% probably of its endowment. That's $5 billion almost of the $23 billion endowment. So how much should he choose to cut? It's his decision. How much should Yale reduce spending every year? The total spending at Yale is a little over $2 billion. So the endowment goes down by $5 billion. What cut should you take to the budget? Should faculty salaries be cut, be frozen? Should, you know, TAs not, you know, should you have 3 TAs instead of 4 TAs? What should you do? How big a cut should you take? Now, the same question faced Yale in 1996 or so. I've forgotten exactly the year, 10 or 12 years ago. The previous president, Benno Schmidt, he suddenly noticed that there was deferred maintenance, as he called it. $1 billion to fix the Yale buildings. That's why, incidentally, every year another college gets fixed. They decided there was deferred maintenance of $1 billion. It had $100 million over every year for 10 years had to be spent. The whole endowment then was $3 billion. And now we had a $1 billion deferred maintenance problem. The budget was about $1 billion then. So how much should you cut the Yale budget at that time? So Benno Schmidt said, I'm firing 15% of the faculty. He announced he was firing 15% of the faculty. That was in the front pages of the New York Times, Yale to fire faculty. Well, did he make the right decision? Rick Levin took over as president 3 months later, so probably not. But what mistake did he make in his calculations? What should he have done? What was the right response? Okay, so we're going to talk about, okay, so that's something you should be able to, so it's not that hard a problem. Now, let's take a slightly more complicated one. You're a bookie, and the World Series is coming up. The Yankees are playing the Dodgers, let's say, and you know that the teams are evenly matched, and you've got a bunch of friends who you know every game will be willing to bet at even odds on either side because they're, you know, they think that's a toss-up. Well, one of your customers comes to you and says, he's a Yankee fan. He's sure the Yankees are going to win. He's willing to put up $300,000 to bet on the Yankees, which he loses. So if the Yankees win, he gets $200,000, but if the Yankees lose, he loses $300,000. So 3 to 2 odds he's willing to bet on the Yankees winning. Well, you say, this guy's sort of a sucker here. I can take a big advantage of him. On the other hand, the guys, it's a lot of money, $200,000 I might lose, you know, if I have to pay off and the Yankees win. So even though I think that, you know, the odds are in my, you know, my expected profit is positive because he's putting up $300,000 to make only $200 when they're even odds. In fact, the fact is it's such a big number, I'm a little worried about that. So what do you do? So what can you do? You've got these friends who are willing to bet at even odds, each game by game. So how much money, presumably the first night, you're going to bet with one of your friends. You take the guy's bet, the customer, you take his $300,000, you promise to deliver him $500 back if the Yankees win, and to keep it if the Yankees lose. What should you do with your friends? Should you bet on the Yankees with your friends? Should you bet on the Dodgers with your friends? And how much should you bet at even odds the first night? Okay, so that doesn't, so the answer is, well, I don't want to give all the answers now, but so there's a way of skillfully betting with your friends and not betting 200 or 300,000 the first night with your friends at even odds. You bet some different number than that, which you'll figure out how much to bet, so that if you keep betting through the course of the World Series, you can never lose a penny. Okay, but how do you know how much that is? Well, that's the kind of clever thing that you're going to, these finance guys developed, and you're going to